Okay guys, what's up? This is my video on PID tuning. I'm making it because my MQC teammates have been asking me to for a while. They thought it would be a good idea. I'm not the best PID tuner. I mean, I think I do okay. But it just seems like there's still a handful of people that have a hard time with it. So if this video can help you, great. If not, that's cool too. I will say that we're really fortunate right now with all the work that Boris is doing, because it's easier than ever. Just a few months ago we were having to tune PIDs and tune filters with black blocks, and you had to learn how to read all that stuff. They've done away with that. Like, filters are set, loop time's set. I mean, it's easier than ever. And stock PIDs on PID Controller 1 and Luxfloat, they fly pretty good out of the box. I'm going to be using my Ray sound just because it doesn't have the latest Betaflight, so I might as well update it and then I'll start from scratch. The Super Beast is good. My One is good. I just got that locked in a couple of days ago. So yeah, I'll start from scratch, and I'm just going to fly around in my little park that everybody knows and explain what I'm looking for. I can say that stock PIDs for me, they're going to feel loose and unresponsive. They'll fly good, there won't be any oscillations with the stock PIDs, but it won't be responsive enough for me, not at speed. I have a little list of things, talking points. I made a post last night on MQC about what people wanted to see, and I took some notes. And this is not something that somebody mentioned, but it's something that's important, is make sure when you're PID tuning that you PID tune with your final all-up weight. So that means GoPro, battery, everything. Because obviously if you tune without your GoPro, when you put it on, it's going to throw the tune off, because your tune is highly dependent on the all-up weight. Dimensions, the shape of your quad affects the tune. So if you have like a ZMR, which is an H quad, or a 1, which is an H quad, your pitch PIDs are going to be a little bit higher than your roll PIDs. The Ray sound is a little bit more of an X. It's not a true X, but it's close. So pitch and roll are going to be close. On something like the Black Bolt XBR, they might be identical. I don't know. I would guess that they are. Stick feel versus prop wash. So a lot of people shoot to completely get rid of oscillations or prop wash. When I say prop wash, that could either be descending and it wobbles, or when you do a hard stop, like a 180 and it wobbles. That's what we call prop wash. When I say oscillations, I'm not talking about you do a punch out and it oscillates, because that's not even so much the case anymore. With Betaflight, it's so good. What you're really tuning for is prop wash. So like hard stops. Generally, I don't even have to tune for punch outs, because once you tune for prop wash, punch outs are fine. So I'll get it to where my stick feel feels good, and then start checking prop wash, and I'll show that later. Order of adjustment. So tuning I integral is easy, because basically you want to kind of cruise around and set it at an angle, and then you can pretty much let go of the cyclic and see what happens. If it drifts, your I's too low. It's not that hard to tune, but I'll show it. And then after that, I guess you would do P for pitch and roll. I tend to adjust them at the same time, keeping pitch a little bit higher. And again, I'm going for stick feel. And I tend not to go past, I tend not to go too high. I just turn P up until the stick feels good. And then I'll start to check for prop wash. So P on pitch and roll. And then once I get the stick feel right, I'll start turning up D. And basically, I think stock D is 20. I can bring D as high as like 45. And basically all that's doing is it's smoothing out the prop wash, and it's D kind of adds a resistance to the tune. So when you watch a vid and you see that someone's flying and it looks locked in, but it's kind of bouncy and kind of shaky, that's usually because they don't have enough D. D kind of smooths everything out, and it adds that sort of resistance to make it look really tight. And then the last thing you tune really is yaw. And yaw is not that hard. It seems to be kind of mystified. Generally you don't have any D or very little at all in yaw, because there's not a lot of lateral force on yaw. But you turn yaw P up until it oscillates in fast forward flight. You can't check yaw by turning up P and then yawing around. It's not going to do anything. So when you go in fast forward flight and you're flying at an angle, yaw is what's keeping it centered. So if yaw's too high, it'll oscillate flying forward. Fade break. Some things I'm not going to touch on are stick tuning. I've never even done it. Maybe it's because I'm spoiled and I have a park in front of my house, so I can just pop inside the dining room and hook up to a laptop and make adjustments. Black box. I don't use black box anymore since the filters are preset. For me, there's no reason to use black box. Some people use it for troubleshooting. I don't. What else? What to look for, like, so your end goal. And there's two different things here. So what I look for mainly is stick feel, and then video smoothness. But depending on if I'm tuning for racing or acro, it can be slightly different. For racing, I want maximum stick feel, I want responsiveness, and I want stability. And that could even mean that I'm leaving some oscillation. I don't care, because I'm racing. And if you watch some of my race videos, you'll see that on hard corners, it's like... But for acro, you can dial the PIDs down, 0.2, 0.3, to completely get rid of the oscillation, but still have it appear locked in. One more thing to mention is how you capture your video. So if you use like a Mobius or a run cam and the field of view is like 120, 130 degrees, your video is inherently not going to be as smooth as if you were using a GoPro with super view. And that's just because when the field of view is narrower, any change in pitch is going to be obvious. When you have super view and the field of view is huge, it looks like a gimbal because it's not as perceivable. Okay, that's it for the intro. Anything else I think of while I'm voicing over the flying, I'll add. Thanks, guys.
Okay, so Betaflight version 2.1.3, Luxfloat. I've already gone ahead and set the roll rate, pitch rate, yaw rate, and I set my RC rate and expo. Okay, so first pack, stock bids. So I'm just feeling out the PIDs. You can see that It's kind of sloppy, feels loose, it's kind of all over the place. It's a little bouncy, the wind was blowing a little bit. But kind of hard to control. And then in a second, I'll start checking the eye. So basically throwing it at an angle, letting go of the cyclic to see if it stays on the angle I set. And with stock integral of 40, it's not horrible. And I end up only raising it a few points. Yeah, it's holding pretty good for stock bids. Kind of bouncy on the turnarounds on the waves. Okay, so first pack, I turned my eyes up to 43 and 45 for roll and pitch respectively. Eye on pitch is always a little bit higher for fast forward flight for me, because you don't fly fast going sideways. And then I turned my roll and pitch P up to 2 just to see what it does. And then we'll go on to the next pack. Alright, second pack. P's at 2 on pitch and roll. Yaw is still at default. So I've upped the pitch and roll P by 0.5, and the stick feel is starting to improve. I have the eyes a couple of points, and the eye's fine. Probably won't adjust it again. If you go too high in the eye, I think you get like a slow wobble, but I tend to only up eye until I need to, and I don't touch it again. Now I'm doing hard 180s, and you can see that it's kind of shaking on the 180s, and that's going to be D. Okay, so after that pack, stick feel wasn't quite where I wanted it, so I raised the P's by 0.5 again. And since it was shaking on the hard 180s, I went ahead and raised D on pitch and roll to 30 each. And we'll see how that goes in the next pack. And again, I'm not touching eyes again anymore. Okay, so P's at 2.5, D's at 30. At this point, stick feel is pretty spot on. I probably won't touch the roll again, just because the roll tends to stay lower than pitch. You can see it's still shaking a hair on the 180s. Quick little punch out, no oscillations. At this point, I'm pretty much done. Maybe one more final adjustment. Okay, so after that pack, it was still shaking a little bit, so I raised D's up to 35. And my stick feel was good, but I always tend to raise pitch higher than roll for forward flight, so I'm at 2.9 on pitch, and I'm leaving roll at 2.5. Okay, so you can see that it's really smoothed out, and again, that's from raising the D's up to 35. The pitch control in forward flight is it's stable. You talk about flying fast and low, and that's a lot of that comes from having your pitch dialed in. If your P's are low in your pitch, and you're having to fight it when you're trying to fly fast and low, it's never going to be as smooth as it could be. All that's left really is yaw. Okay, so what you're seeing on the screen is I raised the roll D by 2 points, just because there was still a tiny bit of shake, and that should get rid of it. And I raised D on pitch by another 5 points, just because I raised pitch P up to 2.9. I didn't do any flips, but if I did, they probably would have oscillated a little bit. And then I'm going to try 5.5 on yaw, up from 4. Okay, so my Ds are set, and I'm at 5.5 for yaw, and I'm just going to check for oscillations in forward flight. And you know, by raising the yaw, it kind of locks the whole tune in. It's not oscillating. I was kind of surprised. I was going to try going to 6.5 to see if I could get it to oscillate, but some kids started playing basketball. And this is pretty much my final tune. And this is more of like a race tune. If I was going to do acro, I would probably bring pitch P down just a hair. And maybe even play with D again. But for racing, this is a pretty smooth tune. Okay, and these are just my CLI settings. There's not much now that a lot of the stuff is pre-configured, but yaw jump prevention limit, I turn that up from 200 to 350. At 200, it can actually cause oscillations, and what it's doing is it's trying to prevent the yaw from slipping out. And then deadband, yaw deadband, I turn up to 10, which is the max I hear. That's what Brian Magno tells me. I turn that up to 10, and that just kind of gets rid of like some of the twitchiness on yaw for me. And then I turn off my ACC just so I can arm on an unlevel surface. You don't really need to turn that off, I don't think. Maybe if you have like a Days 32 or something.
Okay, so following up. I know I didn't touch on everything that everybody wanted. Hopefully, watching the flight footage, maybe some things will be a little bit more clear. There are some things that I forgot to touch on in the beginning. Horizon mode or self-level modes. I didn't go over that because I've never tuned a self-level mode. And personally, if you are flying in self-level mode, I think most people should just go ahead and make the jump to rate mode, especially with things like Freerider available. It's not as bad as it seems. You just kind of got to commit to it, find a nice big open field, and just fly in rate mode. It's not as hard. If you fly in self-level mode, it's going to seem hard, but really it's probably mostly psychological. It doesn't take long to get used to flying in rate mode. And the other thing is TPA. I didn't touch on TPA. Again, all that does is you set TPA, say at 0.5 at 1500 breakpoint. That just means at mid-throttle, it's going to start scaling the PIDs down at a percentage. And when you get to max throttle, it's dialing them down by half, by 0.5. I think that's how it works. But basically, you would use TPA if you go full throttle and you have oscillations after you've tuned. I generally don't have to use TPA. It just kind of depends on my Super Beast. For some reason, it oscillates at full throttle, so I did add some TPA. What else? If there's something in the flight footage or something that I explained that wasn't entirely clear, I'm sure I can always do a follow-up or just answer questions on MQC. This isn't going to be a end-all be-all for tuning. I mean, I don't expect people to watch it and just be like, oh, I can tune now, it's so easy. No, it just takes practice. It's just like flying. It just takes practice. I mean, eventually you just start to learn what to look for, and you know how you want it to feel when you're flying. And the other thing, with pitch and roll, the reason why my pitch is higher, again, is when you're flying, when you're racing, or when you're flying fast and low, you want to pitch it forward enough to where you can go fast, but you want it to be locked in. If it's not locked in, you're going to be fighting it, and it's going to be wobbly, and your elevation is going to go up and down. That's why my pitch speed is usually higher, because I really want my forward flight to be locked in. But again, if it was for like acro, like on my one, I have my one set up more for acro. I've got my P's probably dialed down by like 0.3, and that way I can just toss it around and not worry about oscillations, and it's not going to be as smooth in forward flight. And I think that's it. I'll throw this clip on there and get the video processed and throw it up. And then we can just start hammering away questions if we need to. Thanks, guys.